Okay, some announcements we're going to get into. What do you have up there first?
Are you doing
They're coming soon? Are they coming soon?
multiple offers?
That's
Announcements at the end.
Yeah.
Get it in that order. So I'm going from that front.
Okay. Can you? All right. Well, let's get into this, and we'll hold the announcements until the end. We've got about 5 different announcements. Fines that the MLS have initiated as of the 1st of this month. Okay, so let's get into our program, and we'll talk about multiple offers. So, as we have that flyer up there, let's get some feedback from you guys. How do you handle multiple offers? What do you do?
Tell them no.
It's Danny and I, we just do a handful of transactions a year. And back when I was just selling, when I was not in management, that's typically what I did on an annual basis. But what's amazing here at TRG is that we see transactions almost daily, and we see what's going on in the industry. So I want to be able to share that with you and share some ideas on how to write those offers to get them accepted, especially if you're going up against 10 different buyers. And that's what we're seeing on our offers, on our listings. We're seeing 10 offers come in, and they're all great. So you just have to make yours a little bit better. And you got to know how to handle that if you're the listing agent. Even if you're a buyer's agent, you got to know how most of the veteran sellers, agents are handling their transactions. So I'm going to go through what we've been teaching now for years and the way we would like you to handle these multiple offers. Okay, so what do you currently do?
Aren't you supposed to pick one offer, go with that first, and if that falls through, go with the second?
Exactly, and that's the bottom line at TRG. That's what we recommend. But what you're seeing out there is these are the different options, right? A lot of agents are still countering everybody. So if you get 10 offers in, let's say it's $1 million property and everybody's right around $1 million, so they come back and they do a multiple counter offer at $1.02 million to everybody. What typically happens? Everybody says yes, right? Because they know that they've got their 17 days or 21-day condition on this, and it's basically putting it off where you're still going to have to make a decision to pick one of those, right? So let's avoid doing multiple counters. Unless a seller really insists on it, I don't see any advantage to the seller in doing that multiple counters. Counter with the best offer. In fact, one of our agents, and I see this on a weekly basis here, writes up this, I don't know if you guys copied that. If you see this at a distance, they wrote a counter offer and then they said, see the addendum. And then this is the addendum, basically the counter offer to that purchase agreement. What's wrong with this?
This one was the offer
She did an addendum to the offer, right? Well, it's too much stuff here, right? I mean, years and years ago, when I was Danny's age, I was hired as an expert witness over a dispute. This was actually in court. We were in the courtroom. The attorneys hired these specialists to come in to look at a counteroffer that was had about a dozen items just like this. And they went over those items for 2 days. Now, for me, as an agent, it was pretty clear. But you can imagine what an attorney would do with this. So it says, well, this says 2 days and the offer says 3 days, and does that mean that we're doing? And it's like, come on, guys. So the whole purpose of us in doing this paperwork and using these C.A.R. forms is to avoid attorneys and to make things as easy as possible and as simple as possible so that everybody understands that. So if you go online to our zip forms booklet, you'll see what I like to have in a counteroffer. And I'm going through this because I want to make sure everybody knows how to access our zip forms booklet. So you go to the TRG website, and what's the password? Sold, okay? And then you'll see a list of downloads. And near the bottom, you'll see the zip forms booklet. Go up, yep, right there. Okay, so in this booklet, I think it's 70 some pages. If we can open that up, it's listed by buyers documents and sellers documents and both, which would be the RPA, right? So you can see what I'm looking for to fill out all of the new forms, and this is for a typical residential transaction. But most importantly, you'll see the counteroffer. And I always counter the 3 contingencies that are in the RPA. And what are those 3 contingencies that are built in? In the inspection, that's the item 14, right? And the default is 17 days to go through the house and check everything, right? What's the other? Appraisal. What's the time frame on that? It's also 17 days. It's built in. And the third is a loan. And that's 21 days, right? So I've been real critical of that ever since they made that revision about 10 years ago. The new RPA that's coming out, it was supposed to come out this year. I think because of COVID, they're pushing it back a year, but we do have a draft of it. They're focusing everything to that 17 days. Because what happens is if you have 17 and 17 and 21, and they remove the 17-day conditions, and on day 20, the buyer says, I really don't like the carpet in that house, or I don't like the chimney report or the roof inspection or whatever it is, right? And they're going to say, well, I'll just back out because I don't like the interest rate that I can get. And a buyer can do that legitimately, right? If they do not want that loan, they can back out, even if it's everything that they had agreed to. That's their condition. So whatever that last condition is, you don't have a deal until that C.A.R. form is signed where they're removing all of those conditions. So we want to make sure that that time frame is tight. So I recommend always, and if we can
Still down, and didn't.
Oh, okay. So I recommend that you specifically state that the buyer is to remove those 3 conditions. And I think it's 3I, 3J, and 14, right? For the appraisal, the loan, and the inspection. And then you put a date on there, by such and such date. I'm still getting agents that, they don't know 14 days. Well, does that start when we opened escrow? Does that start when the offer was written, the date on the offer? Or as we know, it starts after it was accepted, after that final signature was on that acceptance. But a lot of agents don't know that. So in that counteroffer, put a date. And I don't care if it's the 10 days or the 12 days or whatever it is, but have a specific date in there. So it's very clear. There's no discussion as to when they have to get that C.A.R. form to you. And then the other thing that you'll see in this is the close of escrow date. Right? So you're always going to have a date for the close of escrow. Even if it says 30 days, pick a date. I don't care if it's 30 or 35 days, but pick a Tuesday through Friday. Right? We don't want to close on Monday because why? They would have to fund on Friday and lose those 3 days. So pick a day. And the problem comes up when it's 30 days or 45 days. It always falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or a Monday, and it's like, and then you get into this argument and everything. So think ahead, guys. Let's make this industry a lot easier by putting these dates on the contract, right? And even if it's longer periods of time, it's better to have that specific date. So it's a very simple counteroffer. All we're doing is we're removing the 3I, 3J, and the 14B for the inspections by a certain date. And we're putting in the specific close of escrow date, plus our services, coach house escrow, and Stewart title. Okay? Any questions on that counteroffer? Okay, so now we know where we can find all of the forms. We know where we can find the template for not just the counteroffer, but for the purchase agreement and everything else. Okay, so we're going to go back to that multiple offer. I've had some agents, in fact, not just on this one that was written by one of our agents, in the counter, in this case it was an addendum, they state the purchase price is to be highest and best cash offer, right? Well, what does that mean? Right? You know, attorneys have a field day with this. It's ambiguous. It's not an enforceable contract. So I still see agents, and some of them are TRG agents. They write a counter offer, and on the counter offer, they say best and final by Friday at 5 p.m. Right? Well, that's not, guys, that's not a counter offer. You can send an email to the agent and say, hey, give us best and final by Friday, and then we're going to make a decision, right? But don't write it in a counteroffer, because what happens is everybody accepts it, and then you have this ambiguous counteroffer that you're going to have to clean up, because escrow can't accept that. You can't accept best and final. They don't know what that means, right? You got to have a specific price on that.
Well, then everybody equals it. We see that all day long. All day long. Every offer, I see that.
I just got a
I mean,
counter and it says that.
I see it all day long. And that may be the way it is.
Well, you know,
Logically,
our attorney has been preaching this. You know, he comes once a year, and he's always preaching this, and I still see it all the time also. So unfortunately, if we are representing the buyer and we're putting this in, and the seller's agent doesn't know what they're doing, they're putting that back, right? If you get an acceptance, if you're the winner out of this multiple offer scheme, rewrite the offer so that with all the correct terms, so that you can go into escrow without having that ambiguous counteroffer, you know, 1, 2, 3, or 4 that's in there. Our escrow won't take more than 2 counteroffers. So if you're going back and forth, they only want 1 counter. If it's a second counter and it's just something simple, like, you know, maybe an escrow period or a time frame or even price, that's fine, but that's it. We just got to make it very clear. If you're doing something like this, do a rewrite before you go into escrow. Don't do this type of a counter or an addendum. Okay, so the third thing here, some agents will do the first offer that comes in, then it's the first one that's presented, and they give preference to the order that they come in, right? And lastly, and I have no objection to this, I've had some agents, they don't even open offers, they seal them, and then they meet with their client on such and such date, and they make a decision, right? And I think that's okay. The problem is most agents now are emailing, and you get to see these, and so you can't ethically say that, oh, you know, I don't know what your offer is. You know, we're gonna open them all up. Okay, so that's the only problem I have with that. So how do you determine what is the best offer, right? Well, the sellers are always looking at price. And as you know, you'll always get some offer that's higher than anybody else's, but it's 3% down. You know, you got to get an appraisal. Nothing else is ever sold for that high of a price, so you know it's never going to appraise. Or they have other crazy things in there. You know, they've got to sell their house. They want a 60+ day escrow. You know, but it's the most money. So obviously, on our side, we're not looking for best money. Personally, you know, whether a house sells for $1 million or $1,020,000, I don't care. I just want the thing to sell. Now, obviously, the seller wants to get as much money as possible, but I want to make sure that transaction is going to go through. So we've got the financing terms, the time periods, right? If there's a contingency in there, and also the agent, right? So when I look at these multiple offers, number one to me is this other agent, right? I've been in business a long time. If it's an agent that I know or a reputable company or the broker that I know, that to me is more important than price, terms, timeframes, or anything else. So I put that up to number one. Sellers don't care, but that's my personal bias in these transactions. And then you look at the other terms. And today we're still getting some cash offers or large down payments. But obviously in this type of a marketplace, it's really important if they're going to waive that appraisal fee, right? If the buyers are putting a large down payment down where they can waive that appraisal fee, that appraisal contingency, they should be able to waive the loan contingency, right? They've already been pre-approved. So if they're putting, 25, 30% down, or sometimes even more on these more expensive homes, right? There's no reason that they have to have a loan contingency. And so when you're representing buyers, this is the kind of stuff that Danny and I will discuss with you to make that offer look good. Because most agents are still writing in those contingencies. And when you get, 4, 5, 10 offers, the agents aren't going to want those contingencies. So if you can do 30 days and the only contingency are your inspections, your offer is going to look really good, right? And how long does it take to do inspections nowadays? 2 days. A couple of days? Yeah, usually it's 3 days to get Tony out there. So if you can do a 5 or a 7 day condition on that, and you're going to remove all conditions in 7 days, or put a date in there, that offer is going to look really good. Even if it's going to take 30 to 45 days to close because of the time that the lenders require in these COVID times. But again, if you've got a good buyer that's putting more than 20% down, we've actually had loans, clients that the lender has waived the appraisal. If it's a large enough down payment, they have this quick, I could have asked Jonathan about that, but they have this quick program that they won't even get an appraisal. I think it has to be about 40% down or something.
Some appraisals are just automated.
Yeah.
I had one where it wasn't that the sales price was 310, a condo, they didn't even go up to do the appraisal, they just did a computer.
Yeah. Do you know what the financing was? Was it down payment?
5%.
Just 5%. Wow. Okay. So it must have looked really good on paper then, as far as the numbers on there. Yeah. So they're out there. So lenders are working with us. The other comments, kind of aside from this, but I'm amazed on the sales that I've been seeing. I've had appraisers come into value, much more so in other decades when we have this rising market, and that's always been a real bear to get those appraisals. But the appraisers now seem to be, at least the ones I've seen, not just in us, but in our office, but they seem to be more flexible. And even though it's the highest selling price, they've made adjustments in the market, right? Like they should. I mean, if you get a dozen offers at a price, you know that's market. You shouldn't have to go back 3 months on an old sales price. So anyway, I'm not seeing too many problems with appraisals. But waive that if you've got a large down payment.
Isn't this up to the lender to waive the appraisal?
Yes.
Can waive the appraisal?
Yes, but you can waive that appraisal contingency in the RPA, in the purchase agreement. So that's my goal. If you have a large down payment, right, and that's not going to affect the loan, right, which means if you're putting down more than 20%. All right, so now, again, we're in this scenario where we have these multiple offers. This is what I do. So I set a timeline for the presentation. Gone are the days when we would sell the property on day one, when a full price offer comes in. And a lot of times you have to tell your seller that when you list a property. Danny's taught me one of the strategies in this marketplace over these last few years is we always price our listings a little under market. So this last one, in fact, our Anza property, I think it's going to sell in the mid 900s, and we listed it at 919. And so
It's gonna go higher than that.
the idea is that then we can pick and choose whom we wish to work with, right? And we don't have to wait a month or two and then come down and take that FHA 3%, all these conditions, because that's the only buyer out there. So you've got to have a client that's going to believe in you and trust you and go along with the program. And a lot of sellers, you have to educate them because they think, well, if it's at 919 and a full price offer comes in, don't I have to sell it? Because in the old days, Keith, if you remember, that you had a ready, willing, able buyer at that price, it was sold. You were due a commission, right? Well, that's no longer the case in the way that the RPAs are written. So the sellers don't have to sell, even if it's full price.
And the Philbar example.
Yeah, Belmar, we had a listing. We appraised it at $1.2 million, right? The seller, he's on Zillow and online all the time, and he's watching all these things. He agreed with me, which is pretty unusual. And usually sellers, their home is their castle. And so we listed it at $1,195,000, I think, or just under $1.2 million. And we explained that, you're the only thing on the market. We're going to get multiple offers, and this is why we want the multiple offers, pick and choose, right?
And we were trying to get just 10, 20,000 over the 1.2.
Yeah, that was our goal, is be able to pick and choose and try to get a little bit over that.
And it sold for just over 1.3.
Yeah, we actually
So
had
$100,000.
two offers in the 1.3 range, a lot in the 1.2. And what's amazing in this marketplace on the listing, and if you're looking at the listings where you have to turn in that PED form for showings, well, a lot of agents like us, we're requiring a full documentation, a full pre-approval on the buyer before we even show it. And I think this is a great for the industry. It's much more professional, so that we're not wasting times with buyers that, oh yeah, well, I'm got to sell my house down in back in Texas to, it's like, sorry, sell the house, get your pre-approval, and then we'll show you the property. So
We did allow a few walk-bys. The neighborhood people came by, signed the PAD4, and went in.
yeah, so we did an open house, in quotes, by appointment only. And we scheduled them 15 minutes apart. We put it on the MLS, but because we had a line of people out there, we had some neighbors come through, and we fit them in, also signing the paperwork.
With my buyers, I do try to get the EU approval, but that to me is stronger. And a couple of my offers have been accepted just because.
Right.
I
So
have that.
yeah, what Helen said is if you can get that direct underwriting approval, right, which you can nowadays, and this is how you should be handling your buyers because of these cash buyers that are out there in this marketplace, is that you've got to get those buyers formally approved, whether it's a direct underwriting. And so basically all they need is that appraisal to slap on that file, and they're ready to draw loan documents. And if it's a large enough down payment, hopefully you can even get that appraisal waived. And it's just a matter of getting paperwork signed and getting that closed.
You can get commitment letters from the big banks, and they're really impressive.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so there's a lot to do with buyers. Now, unfortunately, it's kind of like my middle son. He, well qualified when he was looking a few years back for a condo. He was an FHA buyer. This is when during short sales, and everybody was offering cash. And we put out a dozen offers until we finally found one that had been on the market a little bit longer and hadn't sold right away, and we were able to get that. So it takes time with those low down buyers that really have to have that loan. Okay, so now we've got 5, 10 offers, right? On this listing. What are we going to do? How do you like to be treated when you're one of those 10 offers? right? Well, you certainly want to have communication that's going on. So what I tell everybody is set a timeline for the presentation. Listing's been on the market for a couple of days, the offers are coming in, so set a date, at least 5 days, 7 days in the future where the offers are going to be presented. Some of these buyers are going to say, well, hey, my offer's only good for 3 days, or they've written it, it's only good tonight. You know, it's all cash at this price, it's only good tonight. Well, sorry, you know, we're waiting to see all of these offers. And you guys all know that that's the best way to represent your seller. But set a timeline, put it in the agent remarks, make sure that any of the agents that brought in those first offers know that, hey, it's going to be Friday at 5 p.m. when we're going to present these. And I make it a point, because this is how I want to be treated when I'm representing the buyer, I make it a point that every day I email that agent. Friday, 5 o'clock is when we're presenting these offers, right? Thank you very much. You know, you're one of 3 offers the next day. You're one of 6 offers. And then I always, and you know, you copy this because it's the same email going out to everybody. I go, your buyer has the right to make any changes to your offer prior. This is the best and final type thing, but I word it differently, saying, you know, if your buyer wants to make any changes, please do so before Friday at 5 p.m., right? Because we recommend that our seller only counter the best offer or accept the best offer. So now I'm laying out the ground rules for these buyers' agents. And I know most agents, some agents still don't even return phone calls, but a lot of agents, you know, you have no clue where you are in the standings in this. So I communicate daily. I choose email for my communication. Text is fine, but for me, it's easier to copy and paste if you have these multiple offers. And you'll have a record of notifying all of these agents on a daily basis until that offer is presented. And a lot of times these buyers, when they, you know, it gets to 5 or 6 offers, are thinking, uh-oh, I better up my price. And they'll make changes to that. So that's how I want to be treated. And it also gives me a better feeling as to how these other agents respond and who do I want to be in this 30-day escrow with, right? When I'm giving advice to the seller during this 4 or 5 day period. Some agents, they may have not sent in their proof of funds, or they didn't give us a FICO score, or whatever it is. And I'll email them or I'll call them and I don't get a response, you know? And it's like, no matter how good the offer is, if they're not responding to me after 3 or 4 days, it's like, I certainly don't want to be in an escrow if I have a choice of these other agents to choose from. Okay. And so basically I communicate and I tell them when we're going to be the presentation and how it's going to be presented. And typically it's we're going to accept one or just counter one. Oh, and this is big also. Let them know, because the veteran agents will ask you, because nobody trusts these agents when there's multiple offers out there. So I tell them in my email, and I said, none of these offers are being represented by me. We do not allow dual agency with the same agent, a TRG. So that's a big plus. So it hopefully makes everybody know that we're acting professionally and ethically in this transaction.
Can we get a sample of that? Can we get a sample of one that you sent out?
Of the emails?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Just to have as sort of like a template, you know, because a lot of times when we get like 12 offers on a property, we get so excited, you know what I mean?
Send me, I prefer an email. Send me an email.
We can put in the recap email.
Yeah, and I'll copy you on this new listing we have, because I'm hoping to get a handful of offers on that. So you'll see how I respond. But wouldn't that be nice if when you're representing buyers that you had that type of communication from the listing agent? I mean, that's how I want to be. Yeah, but there's no reason they can't. I mean, we're not
But
that
if
busy.
as big as TRG is, if we start doing it, a lot of people just copy. They copy what they think is successful.
Yeah.
Or if they think that, wow, that's pretty neat, and then they'll just copy
involved in two of them, 25 offers at one, 22 offers at the other. You just can't communicate, you can just sit there, wait and wait and wait.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get that they're very, very busy, but by the same token,
So are
took
we.
me a little bit, it takes me a little bit of time to get those packages together, so it would be nice to be recognized, but I don't know how you stop 25 offers from coming in a week.
Well, you can cut it down, cut your presentation down to 5 days instead of
Oh, I
7
would have
days.
loved
or-
if they had it.
Yeah. The other thing, I'm glad you brought that up, is, we have the right to not present offers if we get something signed by our seller. So you've got this $1 million property, and you'll get these all cash offers at, $950 or $975. All you have to do is have your seller send you an email or a text or something that's in writing that says, do not present to me anything under $1 million. And this is when you have these multiple offers that are over that, right? And then when that 27th offer comes in at 980, right, you can tell them, sorry, this has been rejected, it's not going to be presented, and you need to copy, be ethical, you need to copy that text and send it to them and say, but thank you very much for working on this transaction. Okay, so that's one of the exclusions to presenting all offers. Okay, so let's get down here. When this kind of further goes into when you're representing the sellers, acknowledge all offers immediately. This is how I want to be treated. Thank you, it's been received. Explain how they're going to be presented. And we can send this to you, a copy of this to you also, because it's just basically best offer only will be accepted or countered, minimum 5 days. Daily emails to the agent. This is basically just what we went over. Accepting changes to your offer by 4 p.m. What's next on there? Okay, so as you know, this is what you have to include when you're representing the buyers. Now we've got the buyer's hat on. You need your contract, your source of funds, and this letter from the buyers. How many use letters, buyer letters? The C.A.R. is calling them love letters now, buyer love letters. So I've been teaching in El Camino for quite a while, and one of the exercises is presenting an offer. This is the old school, actually when we used to sit down, right? And I said it's important that you agents, future agents, know this, because you're going to have some sellers that are going to accept a lesser offer because they like the buyers, right? Fortunately or unfortunately, just this last month, C.A.R. now has a video. If you recall, was it last month when we did that fair housing, right? So there's a half-hour video now on these love letters.
Oh, yeah, I got that.
Right, and the C.A.R. has basically, and the lady that's in charge of this is not a real estate agent, but she basically says, don't do it. Don't do these love letters. And we can forward all of this to you, and this is why. And then they go through all of these reasons. Here's 10 pages on C.A.R.'s buyer interests of unconscious and implicit bias, do's and don'ts, and this is all about these love letters. And the problem is that you're talking about these protected classes now that we can't be involved in. What used to be just race or religion and maybe gender, right? There's now 22 protected classes. So pets, there's a whole thing just on pets, whether they're service animals or emotional
pets.
emotional ESPs.
ESA.
Emotional, yes, yeah, the ESA, especially if you're a landlord, you can't it's like having another tenant in there. You can't do pets, no pets anymore. And then the issue is like, well, what if they're coming to an open house? Well, if they're an ESA, you can't say no to them, right? So there's all these new rules that are out there. C.A.R. has been doing a really good job in educating us for those that want to search out that information. But getting back to these buyer's letters, what they're concerned about is that if you've got typically it's the young couple that has the 3 kids and they want to go to the schools and they want to go to the park, right? Well, family is one of those protected classes. So you can't, as an agent, we can't say anything. It's just like the family room. We can't say family room anymore because that's discriminatory for people that don't have families.
It's a living room.
It's a living room, right?
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. Master bedroom,
You can't say
master bath.
It's the primary.
Primary bedroom, primary bath.
That's really getting stupid.
Are we talking about when we were putting something on the MLS, we can't say extra large master
Yes.
bedroom? You
Yes.
have to say primary?
Yes.
I can't.
Or just bedroom.
Yeah,
Are we
this,
like-
this has been posted now for, I would say, maybe 3 or 4 months. This is from both N.A.R. and C.A.R. Now, a lot of agents aren't educated in this, and even in the forms on this last listing, on the MLS thing, it still had master bedroom and master bath on there, so they haven't changed that yet. But that's the way the wind's blowing. The one that got me was plantation shutters.
We can't say plantation?
Yeah.
Stop it.
That's derogatory.
So just shutters?
Oh my
Yep.
God.
I'm sorry, I'm out.
I do too, like, that's, now is the MLS gonna fine us or?
Not yet, not yet.
That's dishonest.
Yeah, not yet.
There'll be a leeway.
Yeah,
What
that-
our descriptions are gonna end up saying? Nothing.
yeah, that's the future. So, getting back to
Is this
the,
California only?
again, sorry?
Is this California only or
No.
is it national?
Yeah, it's national. Yeah, the master bedroom, master bath is MLS. Danny was just on a call. It's been about a month ago. He's on the board of directors for C.R. MLS, and they had a long discussion on the plantation and the master, and so.
And we decided that just fixing a few wasn't enough, so the whole thing is gonna get overhauled.
Oh, I'm sure.
Are they gonna let us, they've let us know already then, right? So.
It probably won't go into effect till January next year.
Well, I don't think I haven't heard anything about fines or anything, so now it's just unethical comments and.
And the N.A.R. board of directors is meeting this 2 weeks coming up, so stuff will change and kind of trickle down.
Okay, so my question then is this, so like on the standard lease agreement, it says no pets, it just says no pets unless
Yeah,
they're.
you can't do that anymore.
So now we're getting a new form for the leases?
Well, the owner can say no pets, but if somebody comes with a
On
pet,
our
you have to have them
contract,
describe what
on
kind
our
of pet it is.
contract, It's no pets, but so now that's gonna be taken away?
Well, I'm sorry, and Danny's correct. It's okay to say no pets, and you're not renting no pets. But if they have an ESA,
Well, yeah, that's normal, but on the standard lease agreement.
yes,
it's month to
you're
month.
still okay.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
But it's the same way with sellers reviewing offers is you find another issue, whether it's the price, the credit report, something that's not discriminating
Source
against
of-
a protected class.
Source of income is a protected class. So you can't ask where they're getting. the-
But credit report, is recommendations from other landlords,
Okay, so as far as the, yeah, sorry.
One of the problems with these terms is lawyers read the MLSs and they're looking for something in this derogatory. So you open yourself up for a legal problem later on. So that's why, we don't like it, but that's what it is. It's not primary bedroom. It's now, wide shutters. You just can't use. And again, they're gonna come up with a whole list of words that you can't use. So just think about that. You don't want to get sued later on, just do it.
We've got a few months here for this adjustment period. I'm reading the descriptions. More importantly, they do set fines if you put in, like the house is vacant or you have other comments in that description, and usually the MLS will give us a warning first. I try to read all of those descriptions as you guys get new listings to keep us out of trouble. Okay, so let me close on that love letters, and I still like them because I've been doing them for such a long time, and so I will tell my buyers to write something that we can give to the seller that will set you above the other buyers, right? You can't give advice to take pictures, right? To show pictures of your kid. You don't give any advice, but just have them write that letter.
Can include your dog in
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Well, and then as I was discussing yesterday with Danny, then because there's questions that just came up, every week C.A.R. now has these roundhouse meetings with all the brokers, and there's great questions that they throw at the attorneys. But now when you have that buyer love letter, even if it may not be against any protected classes and you're representing the seller, do you present it? Or let's say it has a picture. Do you withhold it or do you present it? Because it opens up this other thing, because now do you withhold that or not?
Because legally, we only have to present the offer, not necessarily anything attached to it.
Yeah, so the attorneys, at least this one lady in this video, if you have questions, it's a really good video. She says that you shouldn't be presenting it. But we haven't gotten to that point yet where they're enforcing anything.
I've had sellers accept offers because they liked the pictures.
Not me too. Yeah. Or they would rather sell to a family,
As
which is a
opposed-
protected class, versus a developer that's coming in to flip it,
Of course,
right?
yeah.
Right. Well,
Isn't that the seller's
that-
right?
that's a bias that we can't ethically tell the seller. Because family is a protected class, and that's a disadvantage to that single person that wants to buy the property.
Doesn't everybody have the right to write a love letter, whether you're single or not?
Yes,
So.
yes, but the question is because
if
we're
you
the,
choose not to get to do
well,
one,
we as the professional then have to make a judgment as to whether we're going to pass that on. It's just like if a buyer comes to you and says, hey, I don't want to live in a neighborhood that's got any purple people in it, So it's like, sorry, I can't represent you. So that's where it comes down to us as the professionals to say no. Right? That's our duty. Okay, so done with the love letters. Another thing that's really good with these multiple offers is zip forms. And we are using this. This is one thing Danny's taught me to use with these multiple offers. And it's nice because it's kind of just the facts. And they also mention this in the fair housing. If you use this, it's more numbers, and we're avoiding those protected classes.
And if it gets down to 2, then you can put the supporting letters, credit scores, pre-approval.
Okay, let's move on here. Get you out of here. As you know, on the last page, on page 10, right, we have the presentation of offer and the rejection of offer. That's now a requirement as of January 1st of this year. We have to respond to all offers. The listing agent has to respond. In the past, and I'm sure there's agents out there now, you'll put offers and you never get a response. You never know what's happening, right? But this is a violation of the Code of Ethics. If you don't respond, that the agent has to respond that this was presented, right? The sellers don't have to do anything, but you have to say in writing that it was presented on such and such date. So as a courtesy to that buyer's agent, if you're representing the seller, get them to reject it, say it was presented and rejected, and just send that page 10 back. Because that way they can send that to their buyer and give that buyer something in writing. Because I've represented buyers where you go through 5 different offers and they never see anything, and the agent either doesn't call you or just sends you a text, sorry, we went with somebody else. Well, that buyer is going to lose faith in you as the agent. So it's always better to give them something in writing that they can pass on to the buyer. That's how I want to be treated when I'm representing.
And
the buyer.
even the lowball offers, that way they can rewrite that offer if they really want the property.
All right, so any questions, interrupt me if, all right, so that's it on that. Moving on to our announcements, get you out of here today, sometime today. Jordan Levine, I think we did a video from him. He is the C.A.R. economist, excellent, right? So tomorrow, he's got a webinar or a Zoom meeting with the South Bay Association of Realtors.
Just before our lunch and learn.
Yeah, 10 to 11:30 tomorrow, right before our lunch and learn, and he's going to give us the fourth quarter market updates. These are some announcements coming down either from C.A.R. or local board. This is from the Department of Real Estate, California Department of Real Estate. This,
Set up a toll-free number.
yeah, this was a notice that was sent out to all the brokerages stating that, hey, we are getting notices that some agents are doing open houses, right? It's illegal and they're going to enforce it. So we've got the DRE has an investigative team that's going to investigate these COVID, non-COVID compliance agents. And there's a number that the public can call if, you know how there's some crazy people out there on this COVID stuff. So be careful. Don't do open houses unless it's by appointment only and you abide by all those rules, you know, only one party in the house at a time, et cetera, et cetera. Coming soon, right? This is that new, it was just a couple months ago. It's a new status now for the MLS. We all know, and I'm still, I advise you not to use coming soon. But for those agents that do, in fact, Danny just told me it was a couple months ago, yeah, there's a coming soon sign and there's a line of people going in where the agent's showing them, right? $2,500 fine
Minimum.
is the minimum, right? It's 1% of the list price or $2,500 minimum. If anybody is showing these coming soon listings.
Now you can show them just within 24 hours, it has to be active. But don't test it because somebody's watching.
Right? That's a big fine. And, you know, we have 250 agents and what do we got about maybe 30 agents watching this, right? But there's a TRG agent that's going to get fined on this.
I have a question regarding coming soon. Can you submit an offer to a coming
Yes.
soon? And how soon can they accept our offer? My offer.
They can accept it, go straight to pending.
From coming soon to pending without going to active?
They can just never go back to coming soon. So most people will allow the coming soon to go their pre-marketing period.
Yeah, so there's specific restrictions on that coming soon. We have a case where property was listed previously, buyer had seen it, right? They put it coming soon. It's not going to be listed open market for, let's say, another week. I don't know what the time frame is, but the buyer puts the offer in because they've already seen it, right? So that's fine to get it all accepted and even get it sold. A lot of agents are going to think that that's very unethical because it was really never exposed to the market. I would never do that if it was my seller because I would want that seller to be exposed to the marketplace, right? I'm still talking to agents that say, oh, well, they don't want to be bothered, all that stuff. I go, you got to give it a couple of days, at least on the MLS, to avoid blowback because these attorneys, and we've heard that from C.A.R., they're looking at these listings that are sold by the same company and no marketing time, right?
And to be clear for the syndication, coming soon, agents see it. So if you're doing auto emails, the clients see it. It will not be on a public website though. So you're definitely not getting full exposure on coming soon.
Yeah, but it does unfortunately allow marketing during the coming soon. You just can't show it. So you guys, I'm going to tell when the agent comes crying to Lauren, I'm going to tell them when you talk to these guys because they know. $2,500. And they wanted to make it 5,000, right? So, yeah, they figured out, some of these agents out in Riverside may not want that high of a price. Are we done?
We're done.
Let me make sure here. We got the DRE, we got coming soon. Excellent. Wow. Questions, comments? Yes.
I have a non-real estate listing for a 1992 fully loaded RV that I've traveled 16,000 miles this year. And I've upgraded to a bigger RV. So if anybody wants, or knows anybody interested in a reliable RV, I have one for sale.
Okay. We'll let you.
Just under 20,000.
6% commission?
That's negotiable.
Okay, any other comments? Any birthdays in November? Any November birthdays?
Joe, yes.
Scorpion, yeah.
Congratulations, I've got some photos for you. Congratulations.
Yes.
And we have birthday cake. We got birthday cake and in the kitchen, I'm gonna cut that up for you guys. Make it a great day. Thank you, thanks for coming. Thank you guys, thank you.